Good morning, students. I need to talk about the importance of accessibility and what I am doing to make sure that I am honoring that. So, I have to state this right away in that I have spent about 2 years really educating myself on, and actually before that, but formally in the last 2 or so years, just going in depth with information about accessibility. And it is personal for me because my mom has spontaneous hearing loss in her left ear. And I have noticed over the years how that has impacted her speech. Obviously, it impacts her ability to interact with others and has caused quite the decline in not just her mental health, but also how she engages with people and has significantly contributed to her depression. So, that really and truly taught me the importance of making sure that I am speaking audibly and clearly when I am out in public or interacting with people, and why I try very hard to enunciate my words, not because, I mean, if we want to throw in the whole Oreo thing, that's been a thing for me my entire life. However, there was a reason behind it for me. And because I also used to work at my church and I did computer classes and they couldn't hear you. So you had to speak up. And for a very long time, I worked on deepening my voice when I would speak because I also recognize that some people have difficulty hearing at higher octaves when it comes to your voice. So there's just a lot that I have really and truly worked on just personally. Now, when we think about disability, when we think about accessibility, there are also a lot of other things to consider. And I'm looking over because I have a timeline of historical milestones in the disability rights movement. And I want to note that from 1815 to 1817, formal deaf education begins in the US, and that is with Gallaudet founds the Connecticut Asylum for the Education and Instruction of Deaf and Dumb Persons in Hartford, Connecticut. It is the first school for the deaf in America. 1829, Braille invents the raised point alphabet. 1907, eugenic sterilization law for people with disabilities enacted. And Indiana was the first state to do that. Then we have Franklin D. Roosevelt, who becomes elected president, who has a disability. Then we have the National Federation of the Blind, formed in 1934. The Social Security Act was signed into law in 1935, which, by the way, Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the law, which established a program for permanent assistance for adults with disabilities. Then we continue with a lot of egregious items with 1939 with the Schmatzi program killing thousands of people with disabilities. In 1950, we have the beginning of National Barrier-Free Standards. So disabled veterans and people with disabilities began the barrier-free movement. This combined efforts of the Veterans Administration, the President's Committee on Employment of the Handicapped, and the National Easter Seal Society, among others, results in the development of national standards for barrier-free buildings. 1946, the National Mental Health Foundation was founded. 1947, National Employ the Physically Handicapped Week, as well as the Paralyzed Veterans America organization founded. I can keep going. Yes, I will for a couple of things. 1950, the ARC Champions Abilities of People with Intellectual Disabilities was founded. And then, we have 1954, Brown versus Board of Education. Now, I am going to stop there. I want you to go and look up these things because when we think about all of the news coverage of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I urge you to say the full acronym whenever you are having conversation, because as we have seen, things like critical race theory, woke, DEI are becoming code words for discrimination, hatred, racism against Black people and brown people. You get my drift, okay? But as you can see, simply from the things that I read, that diversity and inclusion also includes those groups. And so for me, not only is accessibility a personal thing, but it also means that from a content perspective, you will see, which I should have said this in the beginning, but I didn't. But I'm saying it now. But I will try very, very hard to always enable captions. I will also be very mindful of the background of the captions that I provide. And what I noticed too is that TikTok has created the captions, which is great, but it's a red background. And for some people with color blindness, they may have issues with that color. And I also am doing a lot more investigation on my own about when I do start editing video to be mindful of the transitions and the effects and different things, because I know that people who, for example, have epilepsy or are at risk for seizures may not be able to interact with my content. So for me to create an inclusive environment, I get to think about these things. And sometimes I'm not always going to get it right. Sometimes I do mess up. Sometimes I forget to caption, or it doesn't work, or I don't put my video description in there, or even the alt text. And some people may say, oh, that's going to take too long. It got TikTok, social media, it has embedded caption. Well, sometimes those are wrong. Because when you think about our accents or our dialects or different things like that, the words can be incorrect. So this is me saying sometimes I won't always get it right, but I am going to keep trying. And that is a part of a concept called cultural humility that I am about to record my video for my email list as the first official lesson for my email. But to me, it's all about continuing to learn and to grow and to understand people that are different. And it's not always a bad thing because someone is different, or they learn in a different way, or they have a disability. Disability isn't a bad word. And I wish we would get a little bit more comfortable with that. So that is my commitment to accessibility, and also making sure that that is there. So for me, it will take a little bit longer for me to put together courses and content and different things like that, because that is a muscle like anything else that you have to develop and grow. So if you know, no, I'm not going to say if you have any resources, let me know. That's my responsibility to go and seek those things out. But if you are willing to share anything that you're learning, I highly encourage you to do so. Share it in the comment. And thank you.